The crises around artificial intelligence, specifically around the construction of data centers, is in my opinion one of the fakest crises of all time. No, this is not a video boosting artificial intelligence and its potential. There are plenty of legitimate concerns to have about it as a technology, and it being able to deliver on the promises being made by tech leaders. That's even putting aside how untrustworthy as a lot of these tech leaders are. I also think that if it can deliver on its promise of replacing workers on a large scale, that's something that can be managed rather than feared for reasons I outlined in a previous video. But actually none of that really matters for this one. To be notified about videos like those and this come out, please subscribe to this channel, and like and comment for more and faster uploads on particular topics. Even if artificial intelligence is an absolute bubble, doomed to burst at some future point, it is presenting the world with an immense opportunity that is only being partially tapped, and I fear that we will not only miss the opportunity, but go in the opposite direction than we should. The opportunity has everything to do with one particular thing that artificial intelligence is driving a shortage of. No, I'm not talking about water. To put things in perspective, Google's data centers worldwide uses less water than 50 golf courses any given year. And the United States alone has about 16,000 golf courses. That's putting aside the fact that data centers don't delete water. They use it for cooling, and then it just enters right back into the water cycle. I am talking about electricity. If there's one clearly adverse effect that data center expansion appears to be having, it is that it's driving up electricity prices. The thing is, though, this doesn't have to be an adverse effect at all. See, if we're worried about the cost of electricity being driven by artificial intelligence and the threat to jobs that artificial intelligence poses, we can kind of kill two birds with one stone by engaging in a massive build-out of electricity production. Instead of having all these ridiculous fights over data centers expanding in communities, with them being blamed for environmental effects that are actually the fault of agricultural runoff from farms, data centers don't consume nitrates, we can engage in the rather straightforward, if difficult in practice, political strategy of taking money from those who want to build data centers and put it towards expanding production of the electricity that they consume. There has scarcely been more of a win-win scenario in the history of politics, and if artificial intelligence is a bubble at the risk of bursting due to rising electricity costs putting pressure on the continued unprofitability of artificial intelligence, large electricity build-out would essentially be a risk-free bailout of the sector. Why is it risk-free? Because at the end of the day, if artificial intelligence as being currently developed is nothing but a completely worthless technology, and our governments have thrown billions, maybe even trillions globally, of dollars into the expansion of electricity production to serve it, guess what we're left with at the end? A whole lot of infrastructure to produce cheap electricity for essentially anything else we want to gear the economy towards. For example, the green transition we should have already been long engaged in. So things like transportation and heating can be accomplished with electricity instead of burning fossil fuels. Like when Microsoft comes to an agreement to purchase all the power from reopening a nuclear power plant, we don't actually, need to turn off that nuclear power plant if AI goes bust. We can actually keep using the power it generates. See, even not accounting for the government actually stepping in and expanding power production, the private sector has already started doing it for itself. Which is another reason why this whole crisis, as far as I'm concerned, is kind of fake and actually an immense opportunity. For the first time in essentially decades, the private sector in the first world is engaged in a particular type of investment that is long neglected. Since practically the 1970s and the rise of neoliberalism, the primary focuses of large-scale financial investment has basically been three things: cannibalizing previously productive companies, cannibalizing the state in the form of privatizing public goods, turning them into extractive money-making ventures at the expense of providing good public services, and cannibalizing the financial system itself through speculative asset bubbles in everything from subprime mortgages to cryptocurrency. For the first time in a long time, the first world private sector is investing in real physical capacity at scale, construction and machines, even if they're producing something that's kind of intangible like compute power. To get to that, they actually have to make something new, not just devour something that already exists. Which means having to hire builders and technicians to do all that blue-collar work that makes it all possible. Not only that, when it comes to the software of artificial intelligence itself, for the first time in a long time, there exists a sector capable of competing with the finance sector for the best technicians and mathematicians in the world to come up with something other than arcane financial instruments. See, the real danger of bubbles is not found in monetary losses or debts. The government can basically print cosmic sums of money to get the economy chugging along at will. The actual danger is that the bubble has you spending massive amounts of time, resources, and energy in producing things that become stranded assets, things that have no or minimal use after the bubble. During these bubbles, investments into things that should be occurring simply don't occur, and then after the bubble, the economy is left with a hangover of investments that should have happened but didn't. The thing with this AI moment is that if it is a bubble, we don't really have much to worry about in terms of being left with stranded assets after the fact. Essentially, the main concerns we'd have are the physical buildings of the data centers, which can probably be reused for industrial, maybe even residential purposes, and electronic equipment, which can probably be recycled. At the very least, it's something that we better get good at anyway with all the e-waste we've produced. Everything else can quickly be repurposed for certainly valuable work. All those skilled workers, blue collar and white collar, can pretty seamlessly be absorbed into public works programs geared towards building infrastructure and developing technologies we certainly need. This isn't to say a burst bubble can't be chaotic monetarily, especially if we're stuck with the misfortune of having it happen while Donald Trump remains president of the United States, but materially it doesn't really have to be if the right moves are made. That's all, by the way, assuming that artificial intelligence is a bubble that leaves essentially no technology of value behind, which is a pessimistic to the point of delusional assumption. Already, there have been solid advances in artificial intelligence that has clear real-world use, that aren't just marginal gimmicks. Which means at least some of the data centers will still be useful after a burst bubble. But positioning ourselves with having already embraced large-scale public works investment into electricity production would also save us in the event that this artificial intelligence moment is not a bubble and actually manages to live up to the hype. Because if it turns out that artificial intelligence capable of replacing human labor on a massive scale across a variety of fields comes along, we can expect demand for electricity to power it all will increase indefinitely. It also helps that if artificial intelligence starts haphazardly solving jobs all over the place, making it basically impossible for individuals and governments to know what careers will survive, you can always be pretty sure that there will never be too much supply of labor somewhere in the field of electricity production that makes it all possible. The electricity sector is also uniquely governance-friendly. See, when the state has to operate as a planner and operator, this isn't some delicate marketplace with a bunch of non-quantifiable elements that need to be managed in order to make a quality product, compared to, say, the clothing industry. More or less, 1 megawatt of power is the same as any other megawatt of power. Even when the government is not in control, it's also a very easy sector to tax revenue. You can't exactly outsource or hide large-scale electricity production and transportation, which means that this sector will provide a firm foundation for the revenue generation required to hold the social fabric together in the event of massive levels of AI-driven unemployment. Which is to say, it's not like an automation tax where the government has to legally define whether or not a well-programmed Excel sheet counts as a robot or not. It can pretty much just look at electricity consumption rates and derive revenue generation from there, whether through ownership of the electricity producer or taxation of those who do produce it. Where and when ownership by government or taxation of private electrical utilities is the correct course of action is a topic worth exploring in another video. But the point so far has been well made enough for this one. In summary, the rise of artificial intelligence, at least when we talk about the construction of data centers to serve the sector, is far more of a win-win opportunity than it is a crisis if governments leverage the moment to expand electricity production to meet the rising demand of data centers, even if they need to tax those who want to build data centers to do so. After all, even if this all ends up being a massive bubble, we're left with cheaper electricity at the end, available for pretty much anything else, and this whole moment stands apart as pretty much the most tangible thing the first world has seen when it comes to large-scale private sector investment for about half a century, and the muscles it's training in meeting this challenge will always be useful for something. And if it winds up not being a bubble, electricity production will be a key strategic sector, and it would be good to have already gotten a head start in building out the political infrastructure to meet demand for it, as it'll only skyrocket. Plus, the electricity sector is a great way to derive revenue from whatever the proceeds are from artificial intelligence in the scenario of large-scale unemployment, making it easier to make the sort of public service investment needed in order to keep the social fabric together. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe.